Guys, we have to talk about the whole drama around Jeff Bezos' Lauren Sanchez. She blew up online, and honestly, her wardrobe always raises eyebrows. It's not a one-time thing. You're one of the select few in that tiny rotunda, just a couple hundred people, and you know you'll be filmed. So of course everyone's noticing Lauren. Her outfit, her ring, everything. People are ripping into her look. Lauren didn't quietly slip away. She left deliberately. One week she's photographed boarding Bezos' yacht in Sardinia, grinning like royalty. The next week, total silence. No snaps, no sightings, no online trail. Her jacket plunges down to her navel, a look she frequently flaunts and talks about in interviews, and it's easy to spot. And yes, you can tell she's had work done. The lips are noticeably enhanced, visibly fake, and she doesn't hide it. Let's be honest, this woman is far from the definition of elegance, and I have every right to watch, analyze, and share my thoughts because that's literally what I do. If anyone has a problem with that, too bad. Interestingly, her team stayed silent, her social media went dark, and within days, flight records exposed her boarding a private jet out of the United States. The destination? Completely hidden. But this wasn't just a quiet getaway. Behind the curtain, the Department of Justice had already flagged her. Sources confirm the FBI was notified not only because of Bezos' ongoing lawsuit, but because sensitive material connected to his aerospace projects may have slipped into the wrong hands. And then suddenly, she lands on the cover of Vogue. Is that the reason Anna Wintour stepped aside? Hard to say, but one thing's clear, the magazine has changed. What once showcased supermodels and genuine visionaries now gives its spotlight to someone whose main credential seems to be marrying into extreme wealth.
Leaked whispers mention classified papers, encrypted conversations, and data the government considered significant. That's when things got serious. An insider admitted her departure wasn't just a vacation. It was a carefully timed escape. While the world thought she left casually, those aware of the truth saw a strategic exit, an attempt to get out before real consequences landed. Even the Bezos wedding reflected this bizarre imbalance. When people without taste are handed unlimited money, the result shows. The gown was unflattering, the makeup excessive, and that gray carpet? Chaotic. This wasn't a celebration. It was a stage-managed performance, a preemptive move before the storm. And that storm wasn't limited to attorneys. Think about it. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez host a wedding of 200 people. Yet not one meaningful friend or close family member seemed to stand out. The guest list? Pure Hollywood cloud. Oprah, Gayle King, every Kardashian imaginable, Corey Gamble, Orlando Bloom, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Brady, Ellie Goulding, Sydney Sweeney too, which made many laugh. How exactly does a man in his 60s know Sydney Sweeney well enough to invite her? The age gap alone makes no sense. It was all for show, a gathering of celebrity names to mask the absence of authentic bonds. The truth? This wasn't love displayed, it was influence displayed. Normally, you'd expect a story this explosive to first surface on gossip outlets like TMZ or Page 6. But this wasn't tabloid material. It was federal. According to several insiders, Lauren Sanchez had been on the FBI's radar for months. Their monitoring was discreet, precise, and had very little to do with her public drama with Jeff Bezos. The real spark came when investigators uncovered encrypted exchanges between Lauren and a media broker. These messages, uncovered during Bezos' court battle, hinted at access to sensitive material, details linked to Blue Origin's projects, confidential investments, and even contracts connected to government operations. In plain terms, information she had no right to handle, much less share.
One intelligence veteran close to the matter put it bluntly, the lawsuit was just smoke. The FBI warrant, that's the fire. The warrant itself was sealed, standard practice whenever influential figures are involved. Outwardly, her name never made headlines, but behind closed doors, her passport was flagged, her digital activity was being tracked, and federal agencies were circling. By the time authorities were prepared to act, she was already gone. Her escape wasn't frantic, it was carefully staged. She wasn't just distancing herself from Bezos, she was avoiding the reach of the US government. This wasn't a panicked sprint for the exits. It was a quiet departure that looked like it had been organized months in advance. Her last sighting was in Los Angeles, 3 days before the FBI's sealed warrant dropped. Then, silence. No media appearances, no Instagram updates, no random paparazzi snaps. Nothing. A jet linked to one of Bezos' shell companies lifted off from Van Nuys Airport, but Bezos wasn't the passenger. Flight records point to Mallorca, Spain. Why Mallorca? Because Spain doesn't simply hand people over for US civil disputes tied to prenups. And when federal warrants get tangled with diplomatic red tape, it's no simple pickup. Her exit wasn't rash, it was cold, precise, and calculated. Someone close to Lauren says she left with just 2 people, an assistant and a security guard, and intentionally abandoned multiple devices. There was no phone trail, no online activity. She didn't flee like someone panicked. She moved like someone who knew exactly what was coming. Now, federal teams are racing to track her down. Bezos is silent, her lawyers have gone quiet, and allies are too frightened to talk. This stopped being a private spat the moment the FBI became involved. According to leaked sources, Bezos' lawyers found messages, files, encrypted recordings, and other materials suggesting Lauren may have shared confidential information with outsiders. That turns a marital dispute into a possible national security problem when it connects to private aerospace contracts and government-related tech. Federal investigators didn't hesitate. They flagged the case and sought a warrant. When she failed to appear for a scheduled deposition, the DOJ quietly approved the sealed order. No press release, but the alert spread fast. She was added to internal watch lists used by US agencies and international partners. What followed looked planned. Insiders say she had escape logistics ready well before the warrant hit. Planes on standby, routes mapped. By the time subpoenas arrived, she was already airborne. This wasn't a paparazzi-style dash, it was a low-profile disappearance. She traveled under an alias on a jet not tied to her name, routed through a lesser-known European airstrip, and touched down in a country with limited US extradition for civil matters. Border checks raised questions, but her documentation cleared. The devices she'd left behind showed little, burner-level clean, and people familiar with the situation believe someone with serious influence smoothed the way.
In short, insiders claim this was a deliberately executed exit designed to stay one step ahead of federal action, a precise, cold disappearance rather than a frantic escape. According to insiders, whoever helped her slip away wasn't acting on Bezos' behalf. The most startling detail, her team went completely dark, phones powered down, emails wiped, and even close business associates couldn't get through. It appears she prepared for a communications blackout weeks ahead, and somehow it happened right under Bezos' watch. Why? Sources claim she anticipated more than divorce drama. She was bracing for legal pressure, federal scrutiny, and media fallout. She wasn't just leaving a relationship, she was distancing herself from a much larger machine. Now, with her reportedly avoiding authorities, Bezos is said to have launched his own private probe. Insiders describe an immediate shift. Instead of dialing a family lawyer, his estate reportedly convened an operational command, a rapid response team including former intelligence officers, private investigators, and cybersecurity specialists. This, sources insist, was not about emotions, but about damage control. Reportedly, the investigation targeted more than her current location. Bezos' team allegedly traced everyone she'd contacted over the previous 3 months. Phone logs, encrypted chats, and staff GPS data. Nothing was supposedly off-limits. What they claim to have found reads like a covert trail, clandestine meetings, disposable phones, and encrypted transfers that might involve restricted assets and sensitive internal communications. According to these accounts, what began as a personal betrayal quickly took on legal and national security dimensions. Those close to the inquiry say Bezos's response looked less like a jilted spouse and more like a CEO confronting potential corporate espionage. One source told reporters he's pushing beyond civil court. He wants a full criminal probe. If true, that could trigger far-reaching actions: financial audits, cybercrime investigations, asset freezes, and closer federal scrutiny. Her bank accounts are said to be flagged, corporate entities reviewed, and digital traces examined for evidence. Insiders insist Bezos's goal isn't to control a relationship. It's to pursue what he sees as a far bigger threat.
Insiders say Bezos isn't merely angry, he's trying to erase her influence completely. According to leaked aviation logs and posts on private flight tracking forums, the jet in question purportedly altered course mid-air and didn't follow a conventional international arrival. Some private aviation sources point to a Caribbean touchdown. The Dominican Republic or the Cayman Islands are being mentioned, places where extradition for civil disputes can be complicated. Translation from those close to the matter: this isn't a holiday, it's a hideout with purpose. Multiple sources claim U.S. federal agencies have now engaged, and not solely because of Bezos's multi-billion-dollar civil claim. What alarms investigators, they say, is evidence suggesting restricted corporate records may have been moved or leaked, elevating the case from a bitter divorce to potential federal offenses. The moment the FBI becomes involved, the stakes shift toward possible criminal charges, and those familiar with the case believe Lauren understands the severity. That's why, according to these accounts, she's been moving between secure locations supported by specialized private security teams that handle high-risk clients. Ironically, the very privileges that came with her marriage, immense wealth, fast international mobility, and access to powerful networks, could be what keeps her out of custody for now. But sources add the pressure is mounting. Asset holds, contract cancellations, and supporters quietly distancing themselves. Her inner circle, they say, is showing strains under legal and financial stress. She may elude subpoenas for a time, but the ripple effects continue to bite. Bezos, insiders say, isn't operating out of spite. He's building a legal and evidentiary case. Lawyers, investigators, and time are his instruments. The longer she remains hidden, the more the case against her can be compiled. If she reappears, those close to the matter warn the legal onslaught waiting could be relentless. Once celebrated amid flashing cameras and luxury yachts, she is now, per sources, off the grid, entangled in lawsuits, facing federal scrutiny, and increasingly isolated from the elite circle she once moved in.
This isn't merely a tumble from fame, it's a systematic unraveling, and according to insiders, it was engineered deliberately by the man she underestimated. This was never just a bitter split. Sources say it unfolded like a playbook. When Bezos suspected betrayal, he allegedly moved methodically, adjusting contracts, triggering legal safeguards, and quietly severing ties while keeping public composure. Meanwhile, Sanchez reportedly kept up the optics as those behind the scenes prepared the legal assault. When her contacts crossed lines connected to Bezos's past troubles, the response, insiders claim, wasn't emotional, it was strategic. By the time she pleaded, the legal machinery had already been set in motion: lawsuits, targeted takedowns, and moves designed to strip influence and access. Today, sources say she's isolated, traveling abroad, avoiding scrutiny, and kept out of the spotlight. Once a regular at society's top tiers, she's now spoken of in hushed tones among elites, her assets shaken, alliances dissolving. Those close to the matter assert Bezos isn't publicly triumphant, he's methodical. The goal, per these accounts, is to neutralize the threat one legal and financial action at a time, erasing public traces and tightening control through paperwork, litigation, and influence. And if these insiders are right, the result isn't just a lost marriage, it's a removal from the stage entirely. Want to weigh in? Drop a comment. Was this a calculated purge or something darker? If you're still watching, the story is far from finished. Expect more revelations, power moves, and drama soon. If you liked this breakdown, hit like, subscribe if you're new, and stay tuned. The next chapter could be the most shocking yet.